Franz Schubert never got to hear his Trout Quintet performed in his lifetime, but given the chance, we think he'd find no better performance hall than this extraordinary one on this sylvan farm out on the Olympic Peninsula. This is the home of the Olympic Music Festival, known to our audience as Concerts in the Barn. For more than 20 years, this very distinctive concert hall has been making the music of not only Schubert, but Mozart, Beethoven, and other chamber music composers come alive in a most appealing setting. All summer long, from late June through Labor Day, thousands of visitors from the world over gather here to enjoy world-class music by world-class artists in an unforgettable environment. We'd like to share the history of the Olympic Music Festival with you. The story is a memorable one, and it begins over a quarter century ago.
Well, one of the things that always bothered me about traveling in Europe and other places was the white tie and tails, constricting elements that I felt didn't really add and probably harmed the quality of the performance. So I thought, well, if we have this barn in the Northwest, we'll play in comfortable clothes. We'll have the audience come comfortably attired. They'll relax more and perhaps listen better. And combining those two elements, I thought, would just be a smashing improvement over what we had lived with for all those many years. And I think we've achieved that.
Alan Iglitzin is one of the founding members of the Philadelphia String Quartet and the visionary behind the Olympic Music Festival. Back in 1966, Alan and the other members of the Philadelphia String Quartet moved to Seattle to become the University of Washington's Quartet in Residence. For 20 years, the quartet performed throughout the Northwest and made dozens of successful international tours. After years on the road, Alan decided to create a summer home for the quartet in a setting no one could resist. He found a 55-acre farm in Quilcene, a farm with a barn, a big barn, with great natural acoustics. The idea of the Olympic Music Festival was born, and with it, a spirit of music making that has drawn listeners of all ages and musical backgrounds under its spell. As you stroll through the festival grounds today, it's easy to see the charm of the farm. We encourage guests to bring a picnic lunch, meander through the garden, explore the country lanes, and perhaps share a carrot or two with the resident donkeys. But it wasn't always like this.
When I first purchased this barn, it was kind of falling down. It looked like many of the barns you see as you whiz down the highway, kind of leaning over and about ready to give up the ghost. I thought it might have the possibilities of being a good place to make music. So I got to work fixing it up. It took about 4 years to get it to some respectable shape. And the old-timers around here, of which there are many, a few of whom come to the concerts, can't quite believe what it's become.
And there was another part of the farm's history that Alan could never quite forget. Since 1914, the farm had belonged to the Iseri family, hard-working farmers who built the barn along with what was then called a milking parlor. For years, the Iseri's Holstein dairy cows provided milk to Northwest communities. But in 1942, all of that changed. The entire Iseri family was evacuated to an internment camp. The cows were sold below market price. The Iseris never regained their property after the war. Instead, the farm passed from one owner to the next, never restored to its former dignity. Alan Iglitzin decided to change all of that. He shored up the barn, built a concert stage, created a balcony, and filled it with hay bales for seating. The milk parlor was turned into a festival shop and deli, and the grounds, well, just look around you. Every building, every pasture, every acre of the farm has been brought back to life. And in 1984, the Olympic Music Festival opened its doors.
When we started the festival, I had no idea whether anybody would come out to hear us play. So we started with 3 weekends and announced the concerts, and lo and behold, the hall was filled all 3 weekends. So I thought, well, there's this much demand to hear this music. We'll try 5 weekends, and so on until we reached the point of a summer-long festival that we have today.
The Philadelphia String Quartet has since retired, but other world-class musicians have filled their place, and they're definitely not wearing tuxedos.
The artists who perform at the festival come from all over the United States, from New York, Boston, San Francisco, Chicago. We also have artists who have come here from Paris, from London. So we've introduced the Northwest to many wonderful young artists.
Like the artists, the audience keeps on growing. The barn seats 450 right up to the rafters, but there's always plenty of room out on the lawn. It's a great way for families to introduce children to classical music without making them wear their best dress-up clothes, which isn't the right attire to climb up on an old tractor anyway. Making chamber music accessible to everyone has always been the festival's mission, and over the years, Alan Iglitzin has refined the ways to make that a reality.
Typically, at each performance, one of us will talk about the music, put it in some historical context, perhaps with a little humor, explain what's about to be heard, to help give a setting for the music, particularly for those folks who are not that familiar with this genre, but even for people who know a lot about chamber music. We have a special family rate, a group rate, and we have a flex pass, which enables people to buy what amounts to a season pass and come in whatever size groups they choose. And for those folks, we have a special open rehearsal, followed by a fun barbecue at which the guests can come and mingle with the artists, ask questions about the music, and that's proved to be a really gratifying event.
So popular has the festival become that literally hundreds of people volunteer each year to help out at concert time. And for those who can't get enough of a good thing, King FM Radio airs festival performances throughout the summer. Concert programs are also frequently aired on National Public Radio's showcase called Performance Today. When you're this successful, the word has to get out, and it has. In 1998, Governor Gary Locke recognized Alan Iglitzin's contributions to cultural life here in the Northwest by awarding him the Washington State Governor's Arts Award. Yet for Alan, one of the biggest rewards from the festival came 2 years earlier, when Isamu Iseri, the son of the man who built the barn, contacted Alan and asked to see his former home, where he was born so many years ago. The meeting was heartfelt and has been repeated many times. The farm's focus has evolved in ways Mr. Iseri could never have imagined, but the spirit and character of the old place has been revived. Equally important, a new friendship has been forged. As the festival embarks on its third decade of music making, we look forward to seeing our old friends, such as the Iseris, and meeting many new friends as well. We hope to see you out at the farm this summer. Pack a picnic and don't dress up.
Unlike many people, I'm very optimistic about the future of chamber music. I simply feel that the music is so great that once exposed to it, that there's no doubt that people will remain attached to it and continue to come for years on end.
Franz Schubert may not have heard all of his compositions during his brief time on Earth, but his work has lived on in the hearts and minds of music lovers everywhere. Just so, the Olympic Music Festival will be with us as long as there are people who enjoy chamber music on a warm summer weekend afternoon in a turn-of-the-century dairy barn.